Hey everybody, my name is Spartak Bunatian and I am the founder of Kubegrid. Before I go on, I want us to all take a moment and appreciate the organizers of Container World. Honestly, you guys have done an amazing job. Thank you. Wow, this new industry has just dawned upon us and it's just everything. It's like a whirlwind coming. There's Kubernetes, there's Istio, there's CoreOS, there's etcd. All of a sudden, I think Bernard really nailed it on the head. There's this cognitive load that companies really need to undergo to adopt all of this. Before you know it, you're facing, it's not an easy thing. You gotta hire a new team to learn the science of Kubernetes and management of all of these technologies. So what we initially set out to do, I come from a large-scale enterprise. I come from AT&T, DirecTV. After that, I was at Medtronic for a number of years, both very large-scale enterprises in their categories. And guess what? They were all going through the same problem of figuring out how do we just basically follow the best practices that the industry is leading in. How do we consume all of these technologies that the Cloud Native Foundation has set upon us? And we set out to do a venture based on partnering up with the National Science Foundation. We were fortunate enough to be able to join them as my startup. And we interviewed close to 200 other tech leaders. And they're all undergoing the same thing. They're all literally going through the same process of building up their cloud native infrastructure. All of that includes building up Kubernetes. To build up Kubernetes, it comes, Kubernetes is not just one product. It's literally 20 different technology stacks and this whole mesh of things that really need to come together and work. So it's not easy for just even an enterprise to do it. They now have to get budgets, they have to get approvals, and literally build up an entire team around it. So we observed that everybody's trying to essentially reinvent the same wheel to end up in the same place. So how can we make this cognitive load a little more bearable and a little more streamlined, since everybody's essentially doing the same thing. They want to do the same issues and get out the same way. So we came up with Kubegrid. It's a technology that stands on the shoulders of giants and orchestrates all the tech you love. So it's essentially an orchestrator of orchestrators. You guys are all familiar with all the different logos and many more. So some of the takeaways we had from all these vast interviews is a lot of companies don't want to be locked into the cloud providers. You have your elastic Kubernetes services and all the other comparables, but guess what happens? It's not cheap. You get locked in. You don't have much flexibility. So a lot of the customers that we spoke with wanted to make sure that they can just take raw upstream versions of Kubernetes and deploy to any cloud provider. So this is where we set out to venture out and to help. And how do we do it? We are a new company, so it's an advantage, it's an asset to be a new company where you're not built on an old stack. You can do it clean from the beginning and build it on the best practices. How do we do this? Number one, everything is a code. So we go a step above what you may use, Terraform for declaring your infrastructure. With our service, you can actually declare your entire cloud strategy where you want a part of your service to be on AWS, and you want Cloudflare to be integrated within it, and what other services you want. And you literally have all of this being a declarative way. Dynamic infrastructure scaling. Kubernetes is great if you give it 20 different instances and say, here are your instances, I'm gonna drop a pod, autoscale that pod. But guess what happens when your entire Kubernetes cluster isn't being utilized? You're just paying for instances there. So we can intelligently monitor the Kubernetes clusters and actually auto-scale, whether it's the compute instances on Google or EC2 instances on AWS, and auto-scale your underlying infrastructure underneath that. Easy workflow and environment replication. Since we're able to control and stand up an entire cluster, then with a snap, in literally under 10 minutes, we can stand up a new test cluster environment for your test group if they need to load test everything. And last but not least, GitOps, complete GitOps. So that means your development team can now just check in code into the development branch or into the staging branch, and that code automatically becomes available in the staging cluster or the testing cluster, whichever way it goes. Again, easily replicating your infrastructure is a big thing, so we've kind of taken a holistic approach of what is everybody doing, not just kubespray or kubeadm or kops or many of the other tools where okay, now I launched my infrastructure, but how do I replicate it across? But we want to make it so you can just bring up sandboxed environments entirely and have access to your entire code. Last but not least, once you have it set up, literally you can launch any stack on any cloud in under 10 minutes using our technology. And this is what we're going for, is you do, while we can't eliminate the cognitive load, we could do it that we create a lot of capacity and a lot of bandwidth for your developers to be able to manage this vast array of land.